What's good, y'all? So I got married at the age of 18, and I thought I knew what marriage really was about, but I really didn't. Marriage has taught me more about being a man than anything else in my life, and I would say most of it I had to learn the hard way. So let's get into it. Like I said, we got married at the age of 18. We got married like a year after we were dating. And up to that point, we were best friends, always spending time together, laughing, always doing stuff, being romantic, going out on dates and stuff like that. And I guess my thought process was always, is this what marriage is supposed to be like? Anybody ain't got a relationship like my relationship is. They must have been doing it wrong this entire time. I thought I had it all together. And I would say something about me whenever I was 18 years old and before I was 18, throughout my high school time, I guess you would say. I was way more energetic than as you can kind of tell, I am now. And for me, I feel like that's another thing that I feel, or I thought that I would have stayed the same. I feel like I have I had a very good representation of what marriage should be like. My dad was very much how you would expect a husband to be to his wife. He was a provider. He was caring. He always did things. He always took care of all of us. Then my stepmother, she was very nurturing. She was very loving. I didn't really see a lot of rockiness. And I mean, of course, with any relationship, there was arguing and things like that, but it was nothing out of the norm, nothing that I didn't already know. So to me, I still felt like it was really smooth. And because I thought it was smooth, I thought my marriage was gonna be like that too. I was like, everything's going good now. Like I said, I felt like we were friends. We were always hanging out. I was like, this is gonna be smooth. I really thought that this is how it was always gonna be. I think the first part of when things began to change for my relationship was when I joined the military. If anybody knows about the military, you know military can be really crazy. When I got to my first base, a lot of my friends were single. I was a married person hanging out with a bunch of single people. For some of y'all already know that's not a good look. But back then I didn't know any better. So we would go out to the club, hang out, and back then, like I said, I didn't know any better. I didn't think nothing of it, but my spouse did. She did not like me going out to the club, and for good reason, because me being out with a bunch of single people, you start to feel like you're single yourself and you can do single things, which is not the case. But I really feel like I was still acting like I was single even though I was married. And I didn't understand what marriage was actually requiring of me at that time. A second major shift, probably whenever I had my daughter. And this is a shift that I would say is a constant, ongoing, new reality that I'm trying to learn to live. Because every single day you realize something new that you got to change about yourself because you want the best for your kid. And what your kids see you do is what they will eventually take on, at least some form of it. And a bunch of things you begin to think about is you got to become a responsible person. You have a kid that you have to take care of. So you have a responsibility now. You got to be a leader, not just to your wife, but also to your kid. That shifts your mindset. It makes you think, okay, I can't do the same things that I was doing before whenever I was just married and young, but now I have a kid. I have to grow up, even though I'm still young at my age, but I have to grow up. I have to start maintaining a certain level of responsibility and discipline in myself and maturity to show my daughter what a man should be for his wife. But whenever she gets older, she knows what to expect out of somebody that she wants to be with. And I think a really big point that I remember learning early on, especially because I still have thoughts of whenever I was a kid myself. A lot of times people think that they can do whatever they want and then tell their kids, you better not do this though. That doesn't really work. Kids always are gonna do what they see their parents do versus what they hear their parents say not to do. So your actions gotta follow what you say for your kid to know that that's the right thing. If you're doing something opposite of what you're telling them not to do, they're gonna think to themselves, why would I not do that? Or why can't I do that? But you can. And then they're gonna eventually do it. Something else that I learned about being married is it's important that you keep dating your spouse. It's important that you don't. This is something that I learned from myself. Everyone's different, but this is something that I definitely learned from myself from the mistakes that I've seen. You always want to continue to date your spouse. You don't want anything to get stale and make it feel like you and your spouse are just roommates. You want y'all to always feel close together, because especially when you're going through hard times, you don't have no one to turn to. You don't want to have no one, and you have somebody in the house with you, but you still feel like you have no one because you're not close. In this culture that we live in this modern culture we live in, as people that stop trying after they get married. And I think I used to have a thought process of, well, that's just life. Like, people go through life, they deal with certain things, and it causes them to change how they just live day to day, which can sometimes seem like they're just giving up or they're not really going to try anymore within their marriage. But now, as I've grown older, I really think that just people get comfortable and they think they don't have to try no more. And they think, well, I've already gotten my spouse. I don't have to go out of the way anymore. I can just live my day to day. And because we're married, so it's not like we're going to leave each other. But I think that's a wrong mindset to have behind being with somebody. I think you should always be trying to be your best, even to your spouse. Even if they're not doing it themselves, you should always try to do it, because I just think it helps the marriage out overall. I think emotions is a big thing too. Growing up, I've always had a really bad anger issue, and I've always had a bad pride issue. And those are two things that don't really work well in marriages, because communication is key. Like, you have to be communicating with your spouse. And for me, like, I'd get upset and I'll just go off on my own and do my own thing and not want to talk. And then nothing never gets solved. And then the problems happen again and again and again. That's how you run into cycles. And then the thing with pride, if you and your spouse are both prideful, like, nothing's going to ever get solved, because y'all always going to think y'all are right. Y'all always going to try to one up each other. And that's also not a good thing. There's just things that I've learned really in my 8th year of being married, going through counseling. And speaking of counseling, I think Christian counseling, by the way, not just regular counseling, I think Christian counseling is important in every marriage, whether you think you're doing good or doing bad. I think it's important for everyone to do it. I think it's important because for my marriage, it made me see things that I wouldn't have saw on my own because of my ego. So whenever you tell your problems and then your significant other tells their problems, they can voice questions to y'all that makes you realize, oh, okay, I wasn't thinking of it like that. Let me think of it differently next time. And these are things that, again, I would have never learned on my own if it wasn't for Christ showing me these things through me messing up, him allowing me to mess up, me going to counseling, just issues in our relationship that we've ran into until we got them fixed. If it wasn't for those type of ways that Jesus has brought us through, I wouldn't have never known these things, because again, I was so full of what I wanted to do. And going back to the military, military taught me a lot of things. I will say I'm a person that, although I'm happy I did my time in the military, I didn't really like my time in the military, but I'm smart enough to realize I learned a lot while I was in the military. Leadership was definitely a big thing that I learned. It has its pros and its cons, like being aware. I'm always thinking ahead of things, trying to make sure that I'm being protective of my family, keeping them safe. Those are things that it's definitely taught me, and I think that's helped me to be a better man for my family. I think it's definitely given me even spiritual leadership attributes that I wouldn't have had without the military. It's taught me how to go first before anyone else goes, like praying whenever no one else is praying, reading the word. Anytime my wife is going through something, anytime my daughter's going through something, I'm always coming and lifting them up with spiritual wisdom, with the word. And I think that is important for the men of the house to do that first before anyone else does that, because as a leader, people follow what you do. So if you're already the person that's reading the word, praying, being spiritual, then it's more likely that your spouse is going to do it. And it's more likely that if you and your spouse is doing it, your kid's going to do it. I think one of the hardest parts for me right now, I would say, is it's been really difficult for me to not be a provider, especially whenever I had a father who provided for the family throughout his entire life. It's not that I don't make any income, it's just I'm not the one who is the sole provider of the house. But I do think it's one of those things where it's a struggle, but I'm not in the wrong place, if you know what I mean. Like, I do think I'm on the path that God put me down. It's just taking time before I see the fruits of the outcome of what I'm doing. Marriage has really taught me a lot, taught me different ways that you need to become a man, how you need to put down your childish ways and mature and become a man. I don't think if I was married, I would have been caring about these different things that I've learned about now, about protection, about being a provider and all these different things. I would have just been on my own and I would have been cool with living, one bedroom apartment and just living my day to day, I don't even know spiritually if I would have been where I'm at today. So I do think I'm happy for my marriage. I'm happy where it is. I'm happy where I know it's gonna go. But yeah, I always try to end the video with giving you guys some motivation. So if any of you guys are going through anything in y'all marriage, just stay with it, constantly pray. Always ask God for wisdom and direction, and He will provide it in His timing. But yeah, if you guys just stick to it, it will get better. Trust me, it always gets better. So just stay with it, guys. And yeah, that's all I got. Peace out.